Good morning, this is Joel live from Fort Myers Beach. Just came out to see all the people coming back to the beach now. It's kind of nice, we're finally out of our house. Of course, I kept going out of my house anyway, I didn't obey any of the rules. But that's me, that's my thing. I just don't obey rules. I don't like rules. But it's okay, I wasn't hurting anybody, and I'm certainly not sick. But I think everybody else should be very careful. Okay, I got all the bolts loose on my cam assembly here. I've got the patented egg retracing cam assembly knot lifter loser. Don't ask me how many times I've used it. So I'm going to put this in here and tip this back, catch the lifters, and then get it out. I've got this ugly towel that I never liked because it looks like it belongs on a yacht, and it just doesn't go with my decor. And it's got a big hole in it now. So to my girlfriend's chagrin, it is now a car towel. Even then, I don't know if I really like it, but I'll find a black one someday. So you reach in here and you work the piece of cardboard in from one end to the other, and you can then catch your lifters. And once you get it like this, then you're good. So what I'm gonna do is, since I'm going to my apartment upstairs, I don't want to leak oil all over it, so I'm gonna put the caps back in, and then I'm just gonna run the thing upstairs. And now we have to run. Okay, so I've got a couple cam assemblies here to show the differences between the cams from the older cars to the newer version of the cam. And their intake is the same. The difference is the exhaust comes on a little quicker and closes a little bit later. And so the key to the difference between these two comes down to overlap. And so with what's going on here, let's just look at this one here in front of us. That's the exhaust, letting the exhaust out, and then as it closes, now my intake is opening. And so you can see there's a moment when it's going in the direction it's going, like this, and then pretty quickly this intake opens up. Okay, so this one is the later cam, and watch what happens when we get to the point where you get some overlap. So you can see that there's a point where you can even do it like this. There's your overlap right there. You can actually just move the whole cam back and forth by pushing on the valves. So that shows you there's a little bit overlap on that one, and Like this one here, watch, I can just push on it. So you can push this to the point where now I can push on either one, nothing happens, because these are pretty much lined up evenly as far as their overlap. This one here, back and forth. So that's the difference between the cams. The cam assemblies are pretty much the same. This one here is actually labeled 83 on the end. This one's labeled 86. So this is an 86, this is an 83. So I'm putting the 83 back on my car, and one of the ways that this could be advantageous or disadvantageous is if you have, like say I got a stock exhaust, you might want more overlap that this one has to help scavenge some of those exhaust gases out by shoving a little bit of air in. It kind of puffs it through. But with a more open exhaust, like most people have nowadays, if you've messed with your car, your exhaust is less. Plus, I've got a mass airflow sensor, so I've got more air coming in, and so this is good. Plus, with this one, I've got a 2 degree on this one, and this one's just the straight timing. I like to feel the 2 degree with my car, especially because it's an automatic car, so it just gets me off the stoplight quicker. You know, it doesn't mean because I'm always racing everybody. It's just, it's kind of nice to have that power in the lower end of your RPM range. I've got a chart that that shows the different curves of different timing associated with the cam events relative to the crankshaft events. And so I've noticed a little bit of a difference, and so I've got to redo this cam tower or cam assembly anyway. I was getting a little bit of an oil leak, and you know, it was just plaguing me for a long time, and I just got tired of dealing with it. I wanted to go back to this cam anyway, so this is the setup that I'm going to go with, and so I'm going to be getting this prepped and back together soon. Okay, so now I'm starting to load up the lifters, and the way I do this is I get some of this Lucas Oil Assembly lube. It's got zinc in it and helps for the assembly process, but for this I want it really slow flowing, so I put it in the fridge. So you can see that's pretty thick. Okay, so what I do here, I got my lifter all nice and clean. Everything here is all clean. So I'm going to take and put a little bit. Well, first I got to be at top dead center. There's my top dead center. So I'm going to put a little bit on the cam first. Then comes the tricky one. I like doing the inside of the lower bore, and that's going to run down, and then this gets a little bit on the face. That helps glue it in place, and then I go around the perimeter. And then I kind of just whack it a little bit with tip, and that's ready to drop in. So I'm going down real slow because I want to keep the spillage of the assembly lube to a minimum. I'm just going to gently just drop that in place, let that guy fall down, and then you can kind of wiggle it a little bit with your finger, and that kind of helps draw the assembly lube into that hole. So now I got to clean this up because otherwise it's going to be in my way later on. So I want to clean from the clean area first. I want to go from the clean area into that area with a nice dry towel. And watch out for these little strings, because this stuff is just gooey as heck. So now it's all nice and clean. I'm going to go through and do all these, and then I'm going to let this sit probably overnight, probably do this tomorrow. But the key is you just want to get these all seated in with the cold stuff. Let this all just gel and let it be. And that way when you go to put it in, you can flip it over and the lifters aren't going to fall out. So the way I figure out which lifters I'm going to use is I test them to see if they're either depressed too easily or depressed not at all. You can kind of feel it. So what you do is you give it a good squeeze, and you'll see the oil start coming out pretty easily. You got to squeeze it kind of hard, but it should move. This one here is completely collapsed. I can push down on it. So this one might come back if you put it in, but since I have a couple extra sets, I just pick out the best ones. They may wear a little bit differently, but I've noticed after about 3,000 to a couple thousand miles, when you take them out again, they're perfectly flat still. They might wear a little bit, but in my lifetime with this car, I'm not worried about it. Okay, cam assembly about ready to go back on, and it's sitting here a little precariously, but I don't know, you can't really tell, but I did assembly lube with these things about a week ago, and they've been sitting in my air-conditioned apartment this whole time, and so these lifters do not move at all, so I'm not going to budge them. And then what I did was I took some wood and a chopstick, and I made like a little bit of a cam assembly lock so that I'm locked at top dead center. And I'm ready to go. Okay, so this is how I put in these little these bolts, these hex head, Allen head bolts. Is I've got a 6 that I cut the ball end off of, and it started out as too big to fit, so I sanded it down carefully so that when you put one of these in here, like so, it sticks. Well, it sticks pretty good, but that one's a little loose. But anyway, that's why I use a magnet. So I can't show you at the same time, but here this will make sense. There we go. So the magnet then holds it in place. And then I also use a little bit of assembly lube on it too. So I got to put the camera down to assemble this one. And that's just to get it in the holes here without dropping it. Because it's no fun if you drop it in the hole. Okay, I wanted to do a wrap up on the cam assembly video. See, I got the cam assembly in place, and this time I used a little bit of RTV on the gasket. You can see just a little bit of it poking through there. And the way I did the RTV was I took the gasket and I went around the perimeter of the gasket, and then also the perimeter of the head, and also the perimeter of the cam assembly itself, but very thin, very thin layer on each one. And then I put the whole thing together really fast. That's why there's no video of it, because from the time I started till the time I bolted it down was about an hour. And so then you let it sit for a little while, and then you torque it down, and I ended up torquing it the next morning also. So far so good. It looks nice and dry down in there, and it drives great. The cam 2-set advance that this now has is just great. It lost a little bit of that kind of burst in the later RPMs, but it gained in the lower RPMs, where in an automatic car that's what spools up your torque converter. So anyway, one more little thing here before I sign off. This is a chain tensioner. It's very similar to the one that's in the car, of course. Well, you know where that is. Anyway, and so what I did was I took this off, the spring and this all the other thing, took those off. And so what you do is you take this guy and you adjust it out until it starts hitting there. Okay, so you can see that at this point our belt can go on like that. You can use this as a reference. So this isn't the right bolt right now, but you know what I'm talking about. There's a nut here, and then there's this bolt. So what you do is you get the belt on there like that, and then you just take with your fingers, and you can slowly, like this, tighten it up. And it's so easy. It takes all the excitement out of it, because it's so precise too. You can just creep right up on it, because there's tension on this, so the rubber, the belt is pushing back against this. And there's a little set screw here that you have to kind of wind this up as you go. But if you get it all ready before you put it back in the car, that's the easiest way to do it. This is something you wouldn't want to do with this in the car. You want to do this first, then reinstall it. So by then backing this out, as you're backing this out, it's actually pushing against here, pushing this way, and so that gives you your tension on your belt. Then once you've got it set right, you tighten this guy down and then this nut down, and you've got 3 different ways, basically. And then, and then you move this little nut up against this and make it pretty tight. So you've got like double insurance, triple insurance that nothing's gonna detension your belt for any accidental reason. So I set it like this with my fingers, and then I crank it around by hand and take the spark plugs out. Take the spark plugs out when you go to crank it, so that it's just easier for your engine. Plus, it's a good way to get the feel of it with your hands to make sure that everything is working properly. It should glide through all the way around, nice and easy. And it also gets some oil moving in the various passageways and stuff. So. Okay, well, it's been 2.5 years basically since the lockdown, and here I am now finally looking at a beautiful running engine
and it's got the torque the way I want it. The everything is the way I want. I ended up replacing this hose here with this bell mouth thingy that I kind of just made out of some silicone. That's a little grill guy. So temperature gets up to about 120 on a hot day in that spot. So that allows me to keep an eye on that. So right now I still don't have the cover over the chain, the timing belt and all that, because I'm not exactly sure where it's going to be in the long run. So I'm going to run it for a day or two like this. Just got to be careful you don't drive on any gravel roads or anything that's going to stir up some junk that might get in your belts. You want to drive it kind of chilled when it's like this. So there we go. There she is. Now I can get to some more fun videos, I think, instead of these painful ones that just take so much of my life. It's not the video, just making them takes forever. Fixing the darn car takes forever. So there we go. Enjoy your Porsche now while there's still time.